Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to the FF Virtual Arena where we are hosting you today. Joining us all the way from Rome in Italy, we have Alessio Castelli from CBI. Alessio, how are you? How are you doing today? How's everything going down in Rome?
Good afternoon, all, and thank you for this interview. I'm fine, thank you, and the same for you. I'm in Rome today. We have a cloudy day, so it's not the best day to have an interview. Also for the noise that I hope you cannot hear, but everything is well. Thank you.
I will swap you any day of the week for the south coast of England with Rome. Any day, just say the word. Let's have a look into this, because one of the things I'm quite keen to understand about you guys is all about open finance. So to start, we need to, if we could kind of define what open finance is, but also off the back of that, tell our audience a little bit about some of the work that you're doing with PwC in your recent report.
Yeah, I think that we have not a single definition of open finance, because in the market you can hear about different and several definitions of open finance. I think that broadly, the open finance could be defined as a new paradigm within the finance landscape. It could be considered as an evolution of open banking, which aims to allow final user, both corporate and retail, to utilize innovative services which have been developed on their needs. So you have the opportunity, thanks to open finance, to offer financial services more addressed to final users' needs. And of course, thanks to open finance, we could also have several functionalities which have a wider scope from typical banking products. And so you can consider, for instance, the personal financial management services, as well as the cash pooling or the wealth management services and so on. So we are facing new innovative services on top of the typical banking products. And of course, thanks to the open finance paradigm, the finance corporates have also the opportunity to make new commercial strategies with upselling and cross-selling opportunities, starting from financing data.
Absolutely. I mean, what you're saying there about the cross-selling and upselling, I mean, that's people like to have everything under one umbrella. It's that's why you have a wedding planner as opposed to going to every individual supplier. Can we talk a little bit about the report in partnership with PwC? What was very much the origin of that?
Yeah, with PwC, we are drafting the second edition of the Global Open Finance Report, which intends to give an idea and an overview over the evolution of open banking and open finance on the last 2 years. And this is a report which aims also to present the best-in-class use cases, new companies, and also the innovations which have been developed by the financial institutions both in Italy and across Europe within the open finance landscape. The report shows high growth rate aligned with the new view of a market which is constantly growing, because we registered 3-digit growth on the open banking services. And of course, the report that we are going to share to publish in the next weeks will offer an overview on this scenario.
Let's you said something interesting there that I want to take and run with. I want to talk a little bit about the market and who exactly it is that is driving the interest and the uptake in open finance. Is it from the customer demands? Is it from compliance, or is it tech driven? You mentioned 3-digit growth, which is quite hockey stick growth. Who is driving that? What is pushing that forward?
Yeah, again, we had not a single answer for your question. Across the world, we know that there are two main approaches in open finance. The first one is a regulatory approach where the market players have to respect the mandatory rules defined by the authorities. And this is, for instance, the situation of the Europe with the Payment Service Directive 2, which imposed to all the traditional banks to open their systems to the third parties, for instance. And we can find also a second approach, which is instead a market-driven approach, where are the market players who are stretching the adoption of different business behaviors to the final users. So definitely there is no a single answer, but of course the market players have to define, have to sell new products, new innovative products, which have to be characterized by a very great user experience together with a wide interoperability. Because without these two requirements, the service will have no success in the open finance market and in the open finance landscape. We know that the final users and the customers are prone to utilize innovative services, but the financial institutions, the fintech companies, has to offer them such kind of services. So to give you a final conclusion to your question, there is no single approach, but of course fintech operators have to have to develop a very tailor-made offering to their final users.
100%. Yeah, there's very few questions with a singular cut and dry answer when talking about open finance. I want to explore a little bit. I'm sat currently in the UK, but we speak with people literally all over the world. But I want to get more of a European example. What is the European Commission doing at this moment to spearhead this movement in open finance? And can we also get your insights on the more domestic Italian ecosystem?
Yeah, we saw that the European Commission is working hard toward an open finance ecosystem and toward an open finance market. In 2020, for instance, the European Commission has published the Digital Finance Package, which intend to prioritize the digitalization in finance to boost the market competitiveness for all the market players within the European economic area. In the same year, the Commission has also published the retail payments strategy, which is more focused, which is strictly focused on the development of innovative payment services, as for instance, instant payments, cross-border payments, squeezing all the actors to the wide adoption of interoperability across all the countries within the single Euro payments area. And an example of such commitment is also represented by the regulation proposal issued a few weeks ago on the instant payments. So we have a very high effort made by the European Commission to foster open finance adoption in Europe. And the same effort is also present at the local domestic level. And for instance, in Italy, we have the national competent authority, the Bank of Italy, which is offering from many years support to market innovators through different channels, such as, for instance, again, the Fintech channel, the Milano Hub, and the Sandbox. All these channels aim to help all the innovators to drive their solution to success in order to increase the competition again in the open finance landscape, and for instance, and to squeeze of course the full potential of innovation for the beneficial of all the actors involved in these kinds of conversations, because the market operators have the need to understand very well market rules, regulations, and so on. But from another point of view, also regulators have to understand very well which are the market needs, how the technologies are in production, and so on. And I have also the pleasure to say you that CBI has been selected few months ago also to join the sandbox of the Bank of Italy, which is an initiative of the Italian Ministry of Finance, with a project named Database Invoice Control, which aims to become a central solution in Italy for invoice financing security. And so this is a very huge opportunity for us and for the Italian market, also to show to all the innovators a good way for a strong conversation with our national competent authorities.
Well, first of all, congratulations on being admitted into the sandbox.
Thank you.
I always think I'm going to steal something Ben Robinson often says, which is that it does seem that finance now, it was a period where they were like castles, great big huge walls, and everything was kept inside the castle. Nobody was allowed in, allowed out. And now it's kind of it's much more of a forest, and you have that kind of ecosystem working around it. You have that kind of sort of base platform, and then on top of the platform you have basically like a pizza base, and then on top of that you then have tomato, cheese, pepperoni, and you have the different kind of options on there. On that kind of sort of note around an ecosystem, are third-party providers, are they critical to this ecosystem, and what role do companies like yourselves at CBI, what role do you take within this sort of layered up ecosystem?
Yeah, CBI can be identified as an industry utility that serves financial institutions, European payment service providers, and corporates and public administrations to respond more promptly and effectively to the market challenges in the digital payments landscape. So we mainly develop a framework, technical guidelines, and collaborative infrastructure on digital services, with a B2B2C perspective. So we are a little bit behind the scene for these operators, with the aim to support such companies to offer innovative services to the final users, should it be corporate or retail final users as well. Of course, as many companies in the world, the international macroeconomic scenario has forced also CBI to embrace new business models and the need to collaborate further with market players, also to the increase of the competitiveness within the finance market scenario. And the main accomplishment of CBI is represented by its ability to create a strong ecosystem of innovative players with, for instance, banks, fintech, IT providers, IT vendors, which are, and also institutions and public administrations as well. And this strong ecosystem is collaborating toward the development of innovative services within the market. So we are not only focused on the technical infrastructure, but we are also working hard to define some technical specification and implementational guidelines able to allow very wide interoperability, not only in Italy, but across Europe as well. And we are also developing and offering to such companies some microservices, the majority of which are offered with API REST technologies, which can be easily integrated within more wide products or processes by the companies, allowing such companies to offer innovative functionalities to the final users with a very low effort and a very good time to market. In a single word, we are a facilitator.
I like that. I can kind of sort of see that. That's a good a good description of CBI, the facilitator. You can put that on a movie poster. On that note, how have you been influenced by some of the ambiguity that we're seeing in the fintech and the financial space market and the wider economic world?
Our activities are focused in Italy within the fintech market, so we have a very strong role to support all the companies involved in such market. But of course, we are also facing new challenges in order to support companies for all Europe, and we have also gained the interest of companies coming from all the world, from the USA, for instance, in order to offer them our support for both domestic and international markets. This is the reason also why we are now involved in the development of new services, such as the name check, for instance, which is a confirmation of pay services, which will be very widely adopted in the next few years, also due to the regulations that will be adopted in Europe, in all Europe, for instance. And as stated before, we are working on the database for the invoices control, and we are also drafting the new generation of corporate banking in Italy. Of course, in order to ensure a wider level of interoperability of our services, of our functionalities across all Europe, we have also an active role on the European working groups, which are shaping the future of open finance through innovative use cases and digital services. So we are working on all these activities, always in order to offer to our clients the best solution characterized by the highest level of interoperability and the best user experience, we hope.
Very well said. You mentioned earlier some of the stuff you're doing within things like invoice finance, for example, which I do think is an area that, not to sound like greensill, but is an area that has a huge opportunity to unlock a lot of capital there. Which part of and vertical within finance has seen the most APIs created, and which part could use more?
Yeah, we analyzing these aspects within our global open finance report, and what we saw is that we have 35% year-over-year increase in the number of APIs offered by fintechs in the market of the financial institutions. And these APIs are not related only to mandatory functionalities, but have to be intended for the majority as a commercial APIs. From our experience, what we see is that about the 95% of the APIs are today related to the informative functionalities, with a residual 5%, which is instead addressed to payment initiations and embedded payments and so on. So a large part of the APIs are today focused on the informative functionalities, such as, for instance, the account aggregation, the balance of your payment accounts, or again the moments that you register on your payments accounts. And these APIs, of course, could be integrated within other applications, fintech applications, like, for instance, the personal financial management and the saving management as well.
Perfect, excellent. I think around that there's also a lot of efficiencies around the opportunity cost by focusing on these elements within APIs, as opposed to kind of mundane day-to-day things, it allows the business to push even further.
Yeah, but also just a further comment, only because of course, thanks to these new technologies, you have less fixed costs, and your costs are moved to the pay-per-use and variable costs. So you have marginal costs which will increase together with the consumption of your products. And of course, the corporates, the fintechs are more prone to offer such kind of services. Also, thanks to the possibility to take a look to the fixed costs, and in order to pay your variable pay-per-use costs only if related with higher levels of margins due to the consumption of such kind of services. So what you say makes perfectly sense.
Absolutely. The last thing I kind of do want to touch on is, since you are obviously currently analyzing the open finance scenario, have you got any particular highlights of this new system? What gets you excited about this space?
Yeah, as I told you, we are constantly analyzing the open finance scenario. We are drafting a report, the Global Open Finance Report, in order to show which are the updates for the open finance landscape in Italy and across Europe, across our continent. I can give you some snapshots of our main findings within such report, which show us, for instance, a 93% annual growth in the number of the third-party providers operating in the single euro payment area, as well as the increase that I mentioned before on the number of APIs which are today available for market players within the open finance landscape. Another important key figure is represented by the number that I mentioned you before, the 3-digit growth, which is 130% growth of API codes in the last few months, with a strong increase in the adoption of the informative services, as I told you before. Of course, within our report, will be reported several key figures of the open finance landscape, and report will be published in next weeks. So I invite you and all your community to follow our website, which is cbiglobe.com, in order to have more updates on this fantastic world.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, Alessio, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here. I've definitely learned a wee bit more about open finance, but also a bit around the kind of entire ecosystem that all links into. Aside from the report, where is the best place to reach out to yourself?
Yeah, you can reach me on the CBI website, or also via email at hey.castelli@cbi.org.eu.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I've been your host, Ali Patterson from FF News. We will see you all very soon.